MTG Deck History Miracle Grow by Alan Comer, one of the most influential blue decks and decks of all time. Welcome in, much love, Magic enthusiast Travis here, and I'm very excited to continue this series on MTG history. I am a deck builder and I am a student of deck building. I'm a student of great decks. I have been inspired and influenced by so many that, man, I need to share these, right? And we started with Kai Bud's Miracle, or rather, a Cunning Wake, and that got great feedback. So as long as that continues, I'm going to continue with this. And I'll probably do it anyways because I think it's a useful thing. It kind of fits with the theme of the channel. And we're going to go into the history of the Miracle Grow deck, the 10 land Miracle Grow deck. So, yeah, we're over here on Star City. I have um, no affiliation with them, but I found their list here and I like it. So, this is a deck that was from 1997 is when it started, so very old. And if you've ever played Legacy, almost every Legacy deck is heavily influenced by this deck. The 16 land Brainstorm or 18 land Brainstorm type decks are all come back to this one. If you play Delver in any format, it comes back to this. Any blue deck with a low land count and a lot of card draw comes back to this. This pushed that theory to the extreme that if you're able to function on a low land count because you have a lot of card draw, that in the late game you're going to pull ahead on cards because you aren't going to get flooded, you aren't going to top deck land. So that's the basically what came out of this deck. So we're going to go over a few variations of it from this 2002 Wizards of the Coast article. But we're going to start off with the classics. So this is a list from 1997. And the first thing you notice is 10 lands. 10 lands, it was psychotic at the time, is still psychotic. I mean, the lowest was like 18 or 20 land Sly at the time. Most people played, between 18 and 26, and that's still kind of the normal range. 10 is just crazy, especially for a blue deck. So how is this deck able to do it? Well, first of all, we have land grant, so it kind of has more lands. If you have no land cards in your hand, you can reveal your hand instead and search for a forest. So this is a deck thinning deck as well, because you're pulling your tropicals out of your deck. So it basically has 14 lands. But each a land grant pulls a land from your deck, and you're less likely to draw it over a long game. So it's got 14 lands, kind of. And then we have Sleight of Hand, which looks at the top two cards, and you can look for a land, and if you find one, you can grab it. We have Brainstorm. If you draw three cards, put two cards back. Everybody knows this. Brainstorm with. Actually, I'm not sure if this is the original list. I'm going to go ahead and look at it. It is the original list. Nice. I thought it played Portent at the time, which is like Brainstorm. Okay, so you brainstorm, you draw three cards, find that second land, and then shuffle the other two away to land grant if you want to do that. Get your third land. We also have Curiosity, enchant creature. When the creature deals combat damage, draw a card. So you put that on a island walking merfolk, or you put it on a flying creature, and you start drawing more cards. Merfolk Looter lets you loot, tap, draw a card, or tap, yeah, draw a card, discard a card. So while it only has 10 lands to start, it functionally has 14. It pulls lands out of its deck. It's able to find the second land and then the third land, and from there it doesn't have to miss lands or miss land drops. So it also can operate really well on low land. It's just a crazy deck. You have days, so you can pick up an island from your hand instead of casting this, and then they have to pay one more. So you only need one land and you replay that other land. You also have Force of Will, something to do with the extra cards. Pay a life, exile a blue card instead of paying its mana. So the deck has a bunch of free counter spells you're just countering for free. The deck also has Foil. Discard an island card and another card to counter a spell. It's like Force of Will, except you have to discard two. So you're pitching cards. You've got 11 free counter spells in the deck. So if you get ahead on tempo, you can just protect with Curiosity. This is like the precursor to Ninja Bear Delver as well, obviously. Ninja Bear Delver is kind of based off this. And then you have Gush, which you can. It's so many free spells in this deck. If you have two lands. Is this really from 97? Um, I'm not sure if this list is from 97, but it says it's from 97. That's crazy if that's correct. It's old is all I know. It says 2002 starts in 97. So you have Gush, which you can play this without paying its mana cost. You pick up 2 islands, you draw 2 cards. So you picking up, drawing a bunch of cards, discarding them to foil, discarding them to force of will, countering their stuff. And then the big whammy in this deck is Winter Orb, and this is what really, 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 really breaks the fuck out of this deck. 2 mana, as long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap steps. Each player only untaps 1 land a turn. So it doesn't matter how many lands you have, bro, you're only untapping 1. So we're going to play a low land game. So this deck puts down Winter Orb, picks up its land to Daze, you have to pay more mana, picks up its land to Gush, hits its land drops untapped, doesn't care about Winter Orb, exiles to Force of Will, discards to foil. The opponent is just really stuck on mana, can't do a whole lot. And it's funny that the 10 land deck does way better on mana than the 26 land deck it plays against. Win conditions. So we've got Skyfolk, we've got Lord of Atlantis, we've got Merfolk Looter, a little Merfolk core, and also Quirion Dryad. This list is not from 97. This can't be right. Dryad. We're going to do a little bit of research right now. Quirion Dryad. I believe this is from Apocalypse, right? 10th edition. Apocalypse. Can someone get the original list here? Like what? Apocalypse. MTG. Here's a little bit of deck history requires research. Apocalypse. MTG set. MTG set. MTG Salvation Wicca. The year on this is definitely not 97, it's 2001. Turbo Xerox. Turbo Xerox MTG. We're going to pull up the original here. Turbo Xerox. Mana War. Here's the original. Okay, so the original version plays 17 lands. This is the 1997 list. The Miracle Grow is not from 97. This is probably from 2002. So sorry for that misinformation, but we corrected it. I'm not going to restart the video. So the original list is kind of a lot more awkward. It has 17 islands, it still has Force of Will, and it has the card draw, so it's the same concept, but and people were still playing a lot more lands at this point. I mean, it's got like Water Spout Djinn, so it picks up lands. Mana War. I'm not going to go in depth in the original Turbo Xerox because it's not nearly as cool as Miracle Grow. Alright, so we got that sorted out. 2002, the Turbo Xerox is from 97. Okay, finishing off here. Quirion Dryad. Whenever you cast a white, blue, green, or white, blue, black, or red spell, you put a +1 counter on it. So here's some theoretical lines from the deck. Turn 1, Sleight of Hand. Maybe you Force of Will their first play. Turn 2, Quirion Dryad. Maybe you use Daze to protect it. It grows to a 2/2. Next turn, maybe you play Winter Orb, and then you Gush up your Dryad to a 3/3, and you play a land. They go to play something, and you cast Foil, and you still have cards. And then you untap. You got a 5/5, 4/4 Dryad. Untap, put Curiosity on it to 5/5. Attack, draw a card. And then they're still on 1 mana. So those are the kind of lines this deck had, and it was very successful. You look at the evolution of the deck. They was added on to. There's some other versions that got popular that used Werebear, which was a threshold creature. Later on, Mystic Enforcer became a big thing. Meddling Mage. I'll just show you Mystic Enforcer because the list didn't really change that much. You can see some people started playing Swords to Plowshares, splashing white. So Mystic Enforcer, 4 mana 3/3, protection from black, threshold +3/+3 and flying. So if you have 7 cards in your graveyard, it's a 4 mana 6/6 flying, protection from black, which is still fucking absurd in 2016. And was crazy back then. 4 mana 6/6 flying, protection from black. What the fuck? Right? Still very good. Still tangles with Abyssal Persecutor. So that's the deck. I mean, the key takeaways from this deck are you don't necessarily need to play more than 10 lands. Now that this is very rare, but I mean, again, you look at legacy decks that play 16 land Delver, or 16 to 18 is kind of the norm, with brainstorms, preordains, ponders. Just find your other land, and then once you have enough lands, you just don't need any more for the rest of the game. That can be traced back to this, which can be traced back to the 1997 list we found. You also look at free counter spells, why those aren't really a thing anymore. Blue-green tempo, Winter Orb, why that effect is not a thing anymore. But yeah, I mean, basically any kind of blue aggro deck, a Ninja Bear Delver, anything has been heavily influenced by this. So I hope you found this useful and interesting. I did. Let me know what other decks you want to see reviewed. I'm going to be jumping around from different time periods and pulling up which ones I think are the most important. And I recommend that if you build a deck, you look back through history at similar decks in the past. And if you haven't yet gone through the ebook, there is a lot of deck history in there, and how to use deck history to your advantage. But if you haven't yet joined the free group, you should do that. If you haven't taken the free workshop, you should do that. Give this video a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the comments. Take care. That was fun.